How my husband ridiculed my background and escaped with his mistress. The gentle hum of the ceiling fan was the only sound in the small living room of our apartment, an unsettling contrast to the storm brewing in my heart. I sat on the edge of the worn-out sofa, the fabric prickling my skin as I stared at the door, waiting for Henry to come home. He was late again, but I didn't need a clock to tell me that. My intuition had been whispering it to me for months. Something was wrong. We had met at a company retreat 5 years ago. Henry was the charismatic head of marketing, his easy smile and sharp wit making him the center of attention wherever he went. I was a recent hire in the finance department, more comfortable with numbers than people. Our worlds collided during a team-building exercise where we were paired together. I had fumbled through the tasks, my nerves getting the better of me, but Henry had been patient and kind, helping me through every step. By the end of the retreat, we were inseparable. When Henry proposed, I was overjoyed. He was everything I had ever dreamed of, a successful, confident man who loved me despite my insecurities. My background was humble. I had grown up in a small rural town, the daughter of a farmer and a homemaker. Money was always tight, and my parents worked tirelessly to ensure my siblings and I had a chance at a better life. I had clawed my way through school, earning scholarships that eventually led me to the city and a stable job. But despite my achievements, I always felt like an outsider, as if I was playing a part in a life that didn't quite fit. Henry, on the other hand, came from a wealthy family. His parents owned a chain of luxury hotels, and he had grown up surrounded by opulence. He was used to the finer things in life: designer clothes, expensive cars, and exotic vacations. But he never made me feel less than. In fact, he often told me how much he admired my determination and grit. Yet, as time passed, I noticed subtle changes in Henry. The way he looked at me when I spoke about my family or my upbringing, the way he dismissed my suggestions when we were out with his friends. It was as if the novelty of my background had worn off, and now he saw me as a project, something to be fixed or improved upon. The first time he ridiculed me, it was over something small, a mispronounced word at a dinner party. His friends laughed, and I felt a flush of embarrassment creep up my neck. Henry didn't apologize later. Instead, he told me I needed to polish up if I wanted to fit in with his crowd. I brushed it off, telling myself he was just trying to help me, to prepare me for the world we were building together. But the ridicule didn't stop. It grew sharper, more frequent, and always in front of others. He would make snide remarks about my accent, my lack of sophistication, or the way I dressed. Each comment was a jab at my self-esteem, a reminder that no matter how hard I tried, I would never truly belong in his world. I confided in my sister, who still lived in our hometown. She urged me to talk to Henry, to make him understand how much his words hurt. I tried, but every time I brought it up, he dismissed me, saying I was being too sensitive or that I needed to toughen up. The man who had once been my biggest supporter had become my harshest critic. Then came the day I found out about his affair. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I had come home early from work, feeling unwell. As I walked through the door, I heard hushed voices coming from the living room. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. Henry's voice was unmistakable, but the soft feminine laughter that followed was not mine. I crept closer, peering into the room from behind the doorframe. There they were, Henry and a woman I recognized from his office. She was beautiful, with long flowing hair and a figure that seemed to belong in a magazine. They were sitting close together on the couch, their heads bent in intimate conversation. My stomach churned as I watched them, my mind racing to make sense of what I was seeing. I must have made a noise because Henry looked up suddenly, his eyes widening in shock when he saw me. The woman turned to look as well, her expression quickly shifting from surprise to pity. Henry stood up, his face hardening as he walked toward me. "What are you doing home so early?" he demanded, his tone cold and accusatory. as if I was the one who had done something wrong. I couldn't find the words to respond. I just stood there staring at him, my mind numb with disbelief. How could he do this? How could he betray me like this? Henry didn't wait for me to speak. He walked past me, pulling the woman along with him. "We were just leaving," he said over his shoulder, his voice devoid of any emotion. "I'll be back later." And just like that, he was gone. I stood in the empty living room, my heart shattered into a million pieces. I had given up so much for Henry, my family, my roots, my sense of self, all in the name of love. And what had he given me in return? Nothing but scorn and betrayal. Days turned into weeks, and Henry didn't come home. He had moved in with his mistress, flaunting their relationship for everyone to see. The whispers at work, the pitying looks from my colleagues, and the concerned calls from my family became too much to bear. I felt like I was suffocating under the weight of my own shame. But as I sat alone in that cold, empty apartment, something inside me began to shift. I realized that I had been living in Henry's shadow for too long, allowing him to define my worth. I had lost sight of who I was, a strong, capable woman who had overcome countless obstacles to build a life for herself. I had been so focused on fitting into Henry's world that I had forgotten the value of my own. With renewed determination, I packed up my belongings and left the apartment that had once been our home. I returned to my hometown, to the family and friends who had always loved and supported me. It wasn't easy. There were days when the pain of Henry's betrayal felt unbearable, but I knew that I was stronger than the circumstances that had tried to break me. In time, I rebuilt my life. I found a job in a small accounting firm where I was valued for my skills and expertise. I reconnected with old friends and made new ones. Most importantly, I learned to love and accept myself, flaws and all. My background was not something to be ashamed of. It was a testament to my resilience and strength. As for Henry, I heard through the grapevine that his relationship with the mistress didn't last. He tried to contact me a few times, but I never responded. I had no interest in reopening old wounds or giving him the power to hurt me again. I had moved on, and I was finally at peace. In the end, I realized that Henry's ridicule and betrayal were not a reflection of my worth, but of his own insecurities. He had tried to bring me down because he couldn't handle the strength and independence I possessed, but he had failed because I was stronger than he ever gave me credit for. And as I stood on the porch of my childhood home, watching the sunset over the fields where I had once played as a child, I knew that I was exactly where I was meant to be. Home.